I've got all the stuff I've brought with me lined up. I've kind of split it into groups. So we've got the new scenario packs here. We've got the new Resistance models there, and we've got all the new releases we've had, but newly painted for the studio here.
Awesome.
So we might as well work our way from. Yeah, these are all the scenario sets that are coming out or have come out already. So we've got various things here. We've got the Monorail at the back,
and this one is already out.
Yeah, the Monorail's out. That was out just about a week ago, actually. The scenarios went on the site last week. So if you want to have a look at the scenarios designed for it, you can just download them for free and have a look at those. They're in beta at the moment, so they might be changed, but we're broadly happy with them as they stand.
So in the scenario, the monorail's like moving across the board.
Yeah. One of them it's carrying a cargo of precious metal, and you have to deliberately derail the monorail so you can recover the contents. You can't blow it up, because if you blow it up, then it'll like throw the cargo all over the place. So that one's quite a fun mission, because it goes diagonally across the board, and you have to choose where you're going to derail it. You derail it closer to your board edge, the easier that is to protect it, but also the less time you'll have to secure it. So It's an interesting mission, that one. And the other one, it's going across the middle of the table with an objective on board, and both players are trying to get on the train to get the objective off. So that one's pretty fun.
Now, to talk about the set real quick, because this set here only shows a couple feet of track and what we're see.
So this isn't the whole set.
Right.
You get 7 stanchions, these things here. They're resin, but with a solid steel base, so they're very heavy at the bottom. You also get 7 feet of this mylar track. This stuff will roll up, and so you can put it away when you're done at the end of the game. Which is important, because you don't want to have to glue this thing to a table. Right. Obviously, the weights will keep it still,
because it is steel and heavy. These are heavy and
solid things.
They're not going to bounce around as the table moves.
No, I mean it'll go basically diagonally or long ways across a 6x4 table with some flex, and you obviously get the train with 3 carriages in there.
So whether you're using it as terrain to make the battle look good, or you are
actually
using the scenarios.
Yeah, it makes a nice addition to a table. When on our last tournament we ran about 6 tables with monorails on, just to kind of break it up a bit, and it looks really cool. I mean, they didn't have any effect in game in that case, but it's just nice scenery if you wanted to run it like that. So next we've got the orbital defense laser. That's out at the end of this month, end of May. This thing is a monster, the biggest model we've made so far for retail. It's a beast. It's basically an enormous laser cannon, designed mainly for shooting down dropships at extreme ranges, like many miles away from the battlefield. It's not a battlefield weapon. You know, the traverse is very slow for something very close to it. But it's basically the 2 scenarios for this. You can use it. One of them you have to capture it and hold it as a focal point. If you're inside, you can actually use it to shoot at buildings. No, it's no good at shooting at ground targets, because it won't even traverse to shoot at ground targets. It's not designed for it.
And I can tell you that we did get a chance to play that mission, Sean and I, and it was a lot of fun.
And that bat rep will be up on my channel.
That'll be up on Blue Table Paint, so you guys will be able to see that.
We used the actual studio model for that as well.
You're welcome to grab that and put it on your thing, of course.
And here, the front door opens too, which is nice and which is cool.
That was
tremendous.
Cool. And the detail that's inside there. It was not ignored. It was done in high detail.
Yeah. And this was painted by Gollum.
And this is Gollum as well, yeah.
And I have to say the edging on this really is like electron thin.
It is. It's very, very, very crisp, which is good for 10mm scale.
Right. Okay, what's next?
Okay, so here we've got the landing pad.
Is this next in the race?
Actually, the bunkers are next. Actually, we went to look at those next. Well, this is going to be, I think, a popular one, because the bunker mission is really good fun, and very easy to.
Can you buy them in your army? Or
no, they just
are objectives things. Or whatever.
We're going to have a couple of scenarios written for these.
Does the blister come with? How many does the blister
you get 5,
come with?
and they're actually boxes with code art on them for these.
Great.
You get 5 in the box. And they've got these little missile pods on the top, which are separate pieces. These are a really fun scenario. We've been using them for tournaments. We've been using card stand-ins before we've had the resin, but now we've got resin.
Is this UCM?
Yeah, it's UCM/Resistance.
Okay.
Which is the same for the orbital defense and the monorail. They're all quite old items of tech, that both the UCM and the Resistance use, which means you can use them on UCM planets or Cradle worlds, either way, which is useful. They've got more scope.
Now it's May right now, so are these going to be released in June?
Yeah.
So it's going to be on a monthly basis.
Yeah, on a monthly basis for these.
That's
yeah.
great.
And then the next one is the landing pad. Well, it's an underground landing pad entrance. You've got this big circular aperture. This is designed to be large enough to allow even an Albatross dropship to fly out of it.
That is cool.
The box. That's my. I've got quite big hands. That's if we put say a car next to it. I'll give you an idea of the size. It's a very large.
It's about 7 inches across.
Yeah, about 7 inches across. One piece of resin. This set will also have. Oh. Sean's come back to measure the thing. Yeah, just shy of 7 inches, or 7 inches
6
on
3/4.
7 if
Yeah.
you go that way, 6
Right.
3/4 if you go that way. It's a big piece of resin. But the set will also have some little scanners with it as well. That'll be part of the missions that are designed to run
So
with
what's
it.
the mission you're trying to?
One of them will be the defender is actually flying forces out of it to try and defend an area.
Okay, great.
Oh, that is sweet.
And the other one is a take and hold style of thing where you have to hold the scanners, although we're still quite early in playtesting for this, so they might change, but that's what we're thinking of at the
This
moment.
is later this year, like the summer.
Yeah, this will be July, this one.
Oh, that's incredible.
We have May,
May.
June, July.
So every month,
Yeah.
and then
we've
all
also-
these missions are going to be in the new release.
Yeah, they'll all be in the book as well.
As well as free
as
online.
well as some other ones, and free online. Yeah, anything we put for free online will stay online most probably. They might. It depends how we do things, but they'll be available because if you just buy these and you've got the original book, you'll still be able to get the scenario for them online.
That is
You
awesome.
know, it'd be fun would be to buy 2 of these and drill one out so that it's open. Which
Oh,
I think would be some major surgery,
It'd be
but
pretty cool. It's quite.
I'm sure we could handle
there's about sort of half an inch of resin, something like that. You could do that and then actually cut and have a hollow battlefield with some dropships coming out. That'd be cool. Think of that, actually. And the last one is the civilian vehicles, which is kind of tied to the Resistance because the Resistance use a lot of improvised tech. But these are clean versions of the Resistance model, so they don't have any of the extra armour bolted on. They don't have dozer blades and spikes on the wheels or any of those extra little details.
They're very Art Nouveau.
Yeah, sort of Art Deco, Art Nouveau, kind of everything from the 20s up to the 50s is generally their civilian style of design in the Dropzone universe. They've kind of gone for a design renaissance before the Scourge invasion and looked back at the 20th century as an example of kind of some forward-looking design back then. Civilian stuff's mainly concerned with aesthetics, especially then because they didn't really have to worry too much about tech. So these are highly detailed. They're not quite as detailed as the Resistance ones because they don't have the extra armour and things, but they have all the transmission and everything underneath, just like the Resistance vehicles do. These will have typical sort of convoy-based missions, things like that. Again, we're still early in our thinking for that.
So this is also a mission.
Yeah, this is another scenario pack.
Oh, wow,
Yeah, you'll
okay.
get more than this. This is just one of each. We're yet to decide exactly how many we're going to put in. It's a case of getting enough so it doesn't end up being too expensive, but we'll work it out so it's optimum in terms of what you get in the box.
And
it'll
is
be
this
enough for the scenarios.
loosely thinking August?
Yeah, that'll be August. We might end up doing 2 of these in 1 month. The last 2 we might.
Wow.
We might do both of them in July. It depends on.
I thought 1 a month was ambitious.
Yeah. I mean, they're done. You know, they're into production molds now. It's just a case of getting them painted up, doing the
Does
photography.
this feel like your regular schedule?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, from now on, we really need and want a release every month, really, to keep things up. Rather than because we've had some gaps in the past when we've been moving office and stuff, and now we've got a nice consistent amount of stuff coming out.
Is it once a month? Is that the schedule just for the scenario packs?
Yeah, just for those,
So
but
on
in general.
top of that, you'll have the other stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm having to work pretty much exclusively on the Resistance at the moment and the new book to finish them off because it is just me doing the design, and there's a lot to get done for the new book. So we're not going to have too many new models out apart from these before the Resistance come out, and then there'll be a lot of new models because that's a whole new race, and that's a big ton of stuff coming out near the end of the year. From sort of August onwards is the plan at the moment.
And so we're looking at the next expansion, which is called Reconquest
Phase 1.
Phase 1. And that's
Yep.
important to remember.
Yep.
is the Phase 1 aspect, and that is loosely scheduled for August currently.
Yeah, loosely scheduled for August. I've got a lot of work to do still. I'm confident, and I'll be back, and I'll be basically locking myself away and working on that, and not much else between now and then.
So, and with the book, you are also trying to release a Resistance starter set and a couple models. Is that correct?
Yeah, and initially there'll be the starter set. There'll be a few extra blisters, things like the command units and stuff like that. The first things you'll want to buy, and then releases will be probably on a fortnightly basis until the Resistance are fully out. They'll all be out before Christmas.
That is awesome.
It will be a fully competitive army with a full choice of everything before Christmas. We don't want to release it all at once because it's a lot for retailers to take in a huge number of codes all at once. It's better to stagger the release schedule a little bit. It makes things slightly easier on our production schedules and means we won't be
going crazy all
at once, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's very much a good thing.
Yeah. So we have a look at the Resistance models next.
Yes.
Next down here,
Yes,
some of
please.
these have never been to the US before. They're all this is their first trip out, apart from Salute in the UK.
I'd like to ask a question before you dive in. I noticed that this is all kind of ramshackle, right?
Yeah.
But when you get to the tanks, other than that, some plates bolted on, they seem
Yeah.
pretty new.
They are.
So how are the Resistance coming by these higher tech?
Well, there's a real split in the Resistance army between ex-military tech and civilian bodged tech.
Got it.
So they will be the Resistance military stuff is tough, expensive in points, quite rare because they don't have that many functioning units left. These all date back to a time before the Scourge invasion. Some Resistance societies may even have manufacturing facilities to make new ones if they're remote enough and if the Scourge have left them alone. But in general, that's not the case. They generally have to rely on what they've got left.
Oh crap! I ran out of space.
Ran out of space.
You know what? I'm just gonna pillage his
Okay.
footage and take it from there.
Okay, sure.
And I also got you to review this stuff on the first day for my channel.
Yeah. No, that's
Thanks
cool.
a lot, Dave.
No
I'll
problem.
send you some raw footage then.
Cool. Okay, so as I was saying, the Resistance military stuff is pretty tough, solid units. They have to be to have survived this long, to be honest. They have got traces of repair on them in various places, so there are little armor plates. In the blister, there are actually several different versions of the same part. Now, they'll be random, but that means if you have an army with various different tanks, they'll all be different, most likely, slightly different with a few variations. This is the Resistance dropship, one of my favourite models so far that I've done.
I've looked at this model very closely, and this is one of my favorite models too.
This is a beast. It's much heavier than the other race's medium dropships. It's twice the weight, physical weight of something like the Neptune, the PHR one, which is the heaviest of the mediums
Right.
currently. It's a chunky model. It's somewhat cruder tech, somewhat less efficient than the UCM technology is, but at the same time it's tougher, it's heavier, it's better armed. This particular one is actually the improvised munition variant with the barrel bomber, which doesn't have a transport capacity but does have some enormously large homemade munitions underneath.
And the biggest one to see there, right there, is that missile that is bigger than these tanks.
Yeah, it's big. It's about the same length as a tank, longer than an M1 Abrams in real life, as it were.
So if you picked up one of like the UCM tanks and put it alongside of it, it's only going to be,
Yeah,
right to
about
the-
there.
almost to the tip
It's an
of it.
enormous bomb. It's a bunker buster, essentially, just designed for demolishing buildings and hurting big stuff like the Hades and other large units. It's also got a couple of these barrel bombs around here, which are basically anti-tank frag grenades. They've got loads of little tungsten darts built in, and when they go off, they just throw the darts out in all directions to destroy armor. Pretty scary, but it's got to be directly above the target when it launches. So it's a one trick, one way wonder, this thing. But it'll be a fun unit to field. But the regular version obviously doesn't have those and has the transport capacity instead,
Right.
which will either carry 2 tanks or 3 of these half tracks over here, which are the Resistance military transport.
Yeah, I love these little half tracks. These look awesome.
They're fun little models, actually. I really like these. These are really cool. They've got grenade launchers down the side as well. Smaller transport capacity than the Bear and heavier, better armoured. but less damage points, probably just the 1 damage point. But these are fun units. You'll be able to upgrade the grenade launcher to something more fun as well, which is quite cool. So you can give them some firepower.
And when you say upgrade, you must have an idea, or is it still in the works?
Or the current idea at the moment is that some of these IFVs half tracks were also used by the police and civil law enforcement as well as the military, and they used things like these little spider drones that they basically launch in through windows to do recon inside buildings.
That is cool.
But the Resistance has repurposed them and basically strap C4 to the back of them, so they can launch them in, and they can basically assist your friendly troops in close combat to give you more dice, which is quite a fun mechanic.
That is a very cool mechanic, especially for a transport when you're dropping people into a building.
Because a lot of the time transports sit safe behind buildings and don't do an awful lot. But here it will be contributing to your close combat rolls if you pay the points for the upgrade.
Yes.
It won't be the cheapest of upgrades because it's pretty powerful, but it will be fun.
I still want it regardless.
Then you've got your standard tank. Again, lower tech than the UCM. It requires 3 crew members rather than just 1. It's got a big conventional cannon, about the same power as a UCM railgun, but less range. It doesn't have the same velocity, but it does also have a smaller cannon on the hull, front arc only, or front narrow. That will be most likely energy 9 backup cannon. So you can shoot at 2 separate targets with this, which is quite fun. But also, it kind of feels spongier and less focused than UCM designs.
Right.
The UCM designs are very efficient and designed for one purpose and one purpose only,
Right.
whereas the Resistance stuff is a bit more. It's kind of dates back to a time where they had more money to develop things and had to produce less items for more varied purposes. The
So
UCM
these do not have machine guns on them.
Well, they do. They have. There's a little heavy machine gun, pencil mounted, on there for one of the crew turrets.
So
You see it, that's got its little ammo box and feed and everything on there.
So technically, it can fire at 3 separate targets.
Yeah,
And machine gun fire, if you guys don't know, can be very powerful in a game, David.
yes, yeah. It was,
From a game that
Yeah,
you'll see that battle report too, where we have a very thrilling and crazy game.
yeah, it was the best game I've ever played so far. It was fantastic. It was a nail biter. Gary pushed me to the limit for it. It was a great game. And I won, but it was so close. It may as well have been a draw.
Yeah.
It was a great game.
And so this type of a vehicle here that shoots can shoot at technically 3 different targets, can be very versatile on the field.
Yeah, and it'll also be very
beautiful
tough
model.
too.
And I just love the details on the turrets.
There's a lot of detail on these. There's more underneath, of course. You've got all the riveting sections for the joining parts of the hull. So the construction is a little bit more crude than
Right.
on UCM tanks. You know, there are rivets in places. The hull plating patterns are slightly different. They've got this kind of jagged edge pattern, which the UCM doesn't use.
Right.
So there's a few variants. The treads are more like modern tank treads, armoured segments of metal, rather than the UCM ones, which are basically a constant band of rubberized metal filament. So these are a different, older tread design.
And with the armor, I know that the rules aren't done yet, but are you looking at like armor 9 or armor 10? Or
Armor
something?
10, 2 damage points, almost certainly for these. This is your standard main battle tank, which is tough. They'll be cheaper than the Gladius in points, but more expensive than the Sabre.
That
So
is
they kind of sit in the middle of the two, which is fun.
That is a nice fit.
Generally, they're kind of over armored and slightly undergunned for what they are, because the Gladius gets 2 energy 10 shots with more range
That
on
is
the
true.
on the same hull, on
Yeah.
the same body armor wise
Right,
and,
and range is
DP
valuable.
wise. Then we have the anti-air variant. Now this thing is a different kettle of fish. This is a scary unit. This is basically dates back to the pre-Scourge invasion days, where the humans were experimenting with railgun technology. So they didn't have railguns on tanks. They weren't powerful enough. But the first use of the technology was here in an anti-air role. The UCM have kind of abandoned that and gone back to weighted bullets with the Rapier because it's cheaper, much cheaper for them to manufacture. They can make more of them. This was a very expensive unit for the humans to produce back when it was made. The way this works is you've got obviously a very long, very thin railgun, a lot less power than a UCM railgun has, but it's basically an anti-air kind of sniper thing. It only has the one shot, but it's going to be hitting on 2s, and it's going to have the new AP rule, which is something we're working on, which is essentially an anti-armor version of Demolisher. So this one will probably have AP2, so it does double damage against anything it hits that's armored. So that's vehicles or aircraft. So it can take out a medium dropship in one shot if you're lucky.
Wow.
But it's going to be highly expensive. You won't be able to. You're not allowed to take many of them in your list. It's probably going to be between 75 and 80 points a tank, which is a lot. It's the most expensive AA in the game.
Yes. But it also has a front cannon and a machine gun.
And it does have the Energy 9 front cannon as well, so it can do some anti-tank because it shares the same hull with the standard. So again, it's a slightly less focused design.
Right.
A bit more multi-purpose, a bit more spongy. That's kind
And
of
so
the
this
feel
thing
for them.
would just track around as the aircraft flew by, spin around and take one big
And
shot.
take one big shot.
And then there goes that. Then the aircraft just explodes into bits.
That's the one. It's a fun unit.
It's all about the visuals in Dropzone.
It's going to
because they are good.
differentiate these from other anti-air units, and it's very different from the other Resistance AA, the regular stuff, which will be the bulk of your anti-air. These you'll probably, if you take them, you'll probably only take 2, so they're not a common unit, but they are fun and they are powerful. We move on to the civilian stuff. This is civilian tech that the Resistance has basically pressed into military service. Some of these have been seen before. The light technicals, basically pickup trucks and things. And 2 variants of those, the machine gun ones and the rocket ones over here. These have got rocket launchers and things like that. These are going to be very cheap. You can field lots of them. We're looking to put quite a few in a blister when you get them.
Do you know how many?
At the moment, possibly as many as 18 or 12.
Wow. Okay. And
Because they are going to be incredibly cheap in points, and we want to try and bring the cost down to buy the things, because it's the Horde Army aspect is something we've been trying to control on a cost level, because Horde armies are usually more expensive, but we're offsetting that with either transports costing more points and the transports being quite necessary. So that balances things out, and stuff like the AA tanks being very expensive in points. You've got a mix of very cheap units and very expensive units in the same army.
right.
So you don't need to buy enormous quantities of models to play Resistance, basically. That's the idea.
All right. Now these are one pack and just showing 2 different weapon types.
Yeah,
that
2
come
different
in
weapon
the, in the
types.
pack.
Yeah.
And
There'll probably be 2 separate blisters, one blister for machine guns, one blister for rockets.
And then I also noticed that there's a lot of different hulls that you have. It's not just, you're not
Yeah.
repeating 2 of them.
Yeah, there are
times 3.
six different hulls and 6 different machine gun turrets. There
That's
were
amazing.
slight different variants in the design, slightly different poses for the men. So you can mix and match and have them all different, which is nice, and that's a big part of the Resistance, at least the civilian tech
And to me,
side.
that makes the whole game very cinematic when you actually get down at this level and you start taking pictures of the games when they're all, you have that variety.
Yeah, and
So
these
it's
are
very much appreciated.
very, very highly detailed as well. And then back here we've got the heavy technicals. 3 variants of these, the anti-air ones. Unlike the tank, these are generally quite poor quality AA. Probably Energy 6, 2 shots, 18-inch range is what we're looking at the moment for these. But again, they'll be cheap. You can field lots of them. They've got no countermeasures,
And that's the thing about these too, is no countermeasures,
which is a huge thing.
which means you can shoot them from across the table if you have the guns that reach that far.
Yeah, if we go that way, we're still playtesting, and we might have to give them countermeasures. Hopefully not. I'm going to try and make it so we don't.
I like that. I think it's a great, it works out.
It's a real differentiator for them.
It differentiates the entire army drastically.
We've got the Katyushas, the anti-tank, basically mass rocket fire. These work together. The more of them there are, the more effective they'll be.
And these
which is
have been a
gonna be
big
fun.
topic here up at Valhalla, these ones here.
Yeah, we're narrowing down the mechanics quite a bit more for those. Basically, the more of them that shoot, the more range you'll have, and the larger the blast marker you can use. So a big battery of them is going to be something to be feared.
And these are all the same gun mechanically, but they're different model-wise.
Yeah, they're different, just different designs, because these are all basically homebrew. So there are different designs of them, different mechanics are going to build them in different ways. They all have the same rules, and they're all the same vehicle. Actually, just by fluke, all 3 of these share the same prow, because these are all interchangeable as well.
Okay.
There are different designs. I've just grabbed them from our box of
And so you have
parts.
the different prowls.
You'd
over
get different
here.
ones in the actual blister. You wouldn't get 3 of the same one.
Okay.
You'd get 3 different ones. So you can
Right.
really mix and match and create a lot of character in the
Okay.
army. The third variant of the heavies is the flamethrower ones.
Gotta have flamethrowers.
You've got to have flamethrowers, and these are fun. I particularly like the twin ones, my favourite. Again, all the same rules, but just different designs of flame weapons. Then we have their transports, the hovercraft. This is actually an ex-military piece of kit, used for all sorts of purposes before the invasion, but now it's used mainly to carry technicals and things like that. I mean, the idea of a highly advanced sci-fi dropship carrying in bodged trucks was a wrong note for me. So we have the proper dropships carrying the proper tanks, and we have the hovercrafts carrying the bodged stuff. This is quite a fun model. The ramp will raise and drop, go down to a nice smooth ramp so everything can drive off. This will fit 3 heavy technicals, 6 light technicals, or 2 battle buses.
And if you're not familiar with Dropzone, the models do all fit into the models, into the transports.
They will all fit, yeah. And also on this thing, because the transports are going to cost more points, they're going to be armed as well. So this has the same Energy 9 cannon that the tanks have.
Well, that's nice.
Down here, front arc only again.
Is it just one? What's on the other side?
Just the one. Yeah, the crew compartment is on the other side.
Oh, cool.
It's slightly asymmetric. There's also a lot of detail underneath all the
wow.
all the fans for the hovercraft and the skirt and everything like that.
Yeah, that's nice, and the lines and everything. It's good.
It's a fun model, this one here. There's a little steering vanes for thrust vectoring vanes at the back of the engines, little lever armatures and stuff like that. I had fun designing this one. There's even things like little life rafts and stuff for if it's in use for these. A lot of the Resistance exist in swampy environments. Generally, the kind of parts of the planet where the Scourge don't really care much about.
Right.
The places they've been able to survive, kind of like rats living in the corners. And the last Resistance model we got here is the battle buses. These are missing the men on the back.
Okay.
We didn't have any in at the time,
How
so
many
they're
men?
3 men.
Okay.
So you can either have RPGs or machine guns. This is a points upgrade, so this piece actually comes off. These are interchangeable as well, so you can put this one on that one, vice versa. You could put them at the front or the back of the vehicle. You could just pose it however you like, which is quite fun.
And that's the aesthetic of it, because rules-wise, you're still measuring from the center of the.
Yeah, it's always the middle of the model for everything. These are very highly detailed. There's all little touches like ladders on the side and equipment packs and water bottles, spare fuel tanks, armoured gratings around the windows, different armour plates bolted on. This one here's got an extra door added that drops down to allow the men to come out, because these will hold a lot of men.
And the extra plating on it.
Oh yeah, lots of extra.
Bolted onto the side for extra protection.
Lots of extra plating, spikes on the front, all kinds of little details.
And the fun thing is that one over here is a school bus.
Oh yeah,
So-
had to be a school bus. There wasn't a choice really. The other one is the Art Deco smooth chrome aesthetic.
Right.
But when it came to a choice of bus, well, it's got to be a school bus. There really isn't.
Yeah, you gotta have the bus.
Yeah.
And when you get these painted up for your studio army, it's going to be yellow, right?
Oh yeah. The bus will certainly be yellow. The
Yeah.
studio one, it will just have to be.
And we've been talking. This is late night conversations here at Valhalla, where you put like the little flashing red lights, get some little LEDs or something in there for you can't pass. But the lights are flashing.
There's all kinds of little touches.
Yeah.
For example, the wing mirrors on here are actually cameras rather than wing mirrors, because it's a sci-fi school bus, but it's still the familiar design and shape, just because it's so iconic, and people empathise with civilian vehicles like this, and that's a school bus. That looks like a school bus. That's the kind of the feel for the thing. It's fun.
Now, when I get Resistance, I'm definitely putting a children on board sign on the back of the bus. So that way, maybe like the UCM or PHR players won't shoot at it.
The Scourge won't care, that's for sure.
The Scourge, they might go after it on purpose.
Yeah.
So I'll take that. Maybe I'll make it removable, magnetized, so I can take it off.
So that's at the moment in the works is the command vehicle, one of their command vehicles, which is half finished at time of filming. As soon as I get back to the office on Monday, I'll be back onto that.
Whoa, a little blurry there.
Oh.
I'll come back in. But yeah, so What can you tell us anything about it, your design wise?
Okay, well the command vehicle, there's going to be 2 of them for the Resistance, and that kind of tells you how we're going with the other races as well.
Okay.
But the
that
one,
is a big hint just for
Yeah.
you, Fate 212 listeners and Blue Table fans. That there's a second command vehicle coming
On the
for
way.
the Resistance, and
most likely the other races as well, obviously.
that is exciting.
But
Love
the
it.
first one I'm working on is a very big tank, a very very big tank indeed. Well, the biggest tank in the game so far in terms of regular tanks.
Oh, wow.
It's not enormously big. It's nothing like the Hades. It's not that big a model, but it's pretty chunky. And again, it's one of those pieces of technology that they had the time and the money to develop before the invasion. So it's not very efficient. It's not especially neat and clean. It's big, expensive, slow, tough, armed to the teeth. That's for your kind of commander who likes to lead from the front.
That sounds like fun.
It's a fun model. It's not finished yet, but it's well on the way. I'm very happy with the design so far. So that's my first port of call when I get back to England, is to just carry on that.
And that's something we will be watching on every channel everywhere to see if we can get a glimpse of it when it first comes visible. So, and the other thing you were talking about before was command cards for the Resistance.
There are actually going to be 2 decks of command cards: the Feral deck and we're calling them Allied for now, but it's Resistance units that are friendly to the UCM. The Feral units will literally they'll eat other humans sometimes that come into their areas. You know, they've gone fully feral and fully savage sometimes, and they're kind of often they're run by warlords, dictators. You know, those kind of despotic kind of characters.
Crazed warlords.
Crazed
so now you've
warlords.
got crazed warlords that you can take over, you can play in this game. That is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Or you've got some of them are quite enlightened civilizations that have managed to cling on to their humanity and their civilization and democracy and things like that. And obviously they're going to be delighted to see the UCM turn up to liberate them.
Unless they want to keep the control
Unless they want to
to
keep
themselves.
their own society. So
And
there's
that also-
always a reason for everyone to fight everybody else. That's always important.
And that was important because that came up a lot when the Resistance first came out. The questions on my site was, why are they going to fight, or on demos sometimes. And that right there is why they need to maintain their own independence from this.
Yeah. They've toughed it out for 200 years, and they don't need the UCM's help. Sometimes they feel that they're intruders, foreigners, aliens. They're not happy about them. Sometimes
200 years is a lot of time to forget.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of time to forget and a lot of time to build up resentment sometimes. So it's not a clear cut,
That is
happy to
awesome.
be rescued kind of thing.
That is awesome. And all these models, just so you guys, everybody understands, these are all going to be out before the end of the year. And there will be a starter set along with maybe 1 or 2 releases when the expansion book comes out.
And then the rest of the models will follow fairly shortly afterwards.
And about approximately every fortnight. And we will be on top of those pre-releases the moment they come out. And so now over here, is there anything else we should add to the Resistance? Or is that
No, that's what we've got so far.
We've covered it pretty well, I thought.
There's more on the works. Obviously, there's infantry units. There's things like that.
Didn't even
You know, there's going to be bikes for the Resistance.
Oh, the bikes.
Another little nugget I can give you.
That's awesome.
The bikes are going to be fun. They're going to be fast scout units, infantry units that actually operate in the open and move very quickly. Great for grabbing little objectives, great for getting intel, that kind of thing.
Running from building to building.
That kind of thing.
Ah.
You know, they're going to be a fun unit. At the moment, we're looking at giving them sticky bombs so they can drive up to tanks and slap anti-tank mines on the side if they're feeling brave.
That is
You know,
cool. That is cool.
They're going to be very characterful units. Not very plentiful. Obviously, they're kind of thing you take 1 or 2 bases of in an army, but they'll be fun.
But tactfully on the board, it will really increase. The tactics and the options that you have when you're playing.
Yeah.
They'll play so different, the armies. And so
Yeah, the
that's
Resistance
really cool.
is going to be a very unusual one for play testing for us. I mean, all these rules I'm talking about here are what are our argued about faults. We've done a lot of math hammering and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Theory zone, drop theory, whatever you want to call it.
Drop theory?
Yeah, we haven't.
I think
we've only,
drop theory is nice.
Drop theory is cool. I mean, we've only just, literally a couple of weeks ago, got some of these models. So we're just approaching the stage where we can playtest. We can proxy as well, but we've been playtesting other things like drop fleet as well.
So we've been very busy in the office at the moment. There's a lot going on for us this year, and we're all working very hard to make sure it all happens when it's supposed to.
And before we move on to anything else, you also mentioned that there's probably going to be more than just the bikes.
Yeah.
On the infantry.
Yeah, oh yeah, there'll be regular infantry, there'll be the occupation veterans, they'll have several infantry choices from the off.
So bikes, are they considered infantry?
Yeah, bikes will be infantry. They might not be an infantry choice depending on how their full sword goes. We'll be playing around with that.
And then so some special force types, and then have some standard troops.
Yeah.
That will be riding the buses.
Yeah, or the half tracks.
Or the half tracks.
Yeah, you'll be able to choose which, the half tracks are slower, tougher, but they can come in by aerial dropship, which is generally a bit faster. The buses are a little slower, but they're much cheaper. They soak up a lot of damage, but they don't have much armour and no countermeasures.
Yeah.
So they're a real difference from the half tracks.
Way different.
The half tracks will be better with close combat environments because you can use them to boost the number of dice you get with that the spider upgrade that I was talking about earlier. So they have their own thing. Right. These have got more firepower against tanks, and the machine gun one will be able to do AA. So they have different roles on the battlefield. I mean, this is in terms of getting the maximum number of men on the board for the least amount of points. The buses will be the best way.
Right.
But if you want to grab objectives further up the battlefield, then the half tracks will be better. So they're going to have their own uses, and it'll be fun to play test them and balance the things to make sure there's merits to both of them.
And you said there's going to be 22 codes, so that's 22 different releases for the Resistance.